Metabolic Mondays with Amanda Paolini,
Hello.
RKin.
Yes. Registered kinesiologist.
In case you didn't know what RKin stood for. But you should know. What do kins do? Tell people.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know. I didn't know either when I was in school. See, this is why I wanted it to be pre-recorded.
This is all staying in.
Oh, gosh.
No, don't say that. Just keep going.
Okay.
What do RKins do?
Okay, so RKins can do a lot of different things. A lot of the time we focus on some type of active form of rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. So like coming out of an injury, strength and condition training, weight loss programs and management. And then there's like a whole other side where we can deal with like chronic conditions. So like stroke rehabilitation, cardiac arrest rehabilitation, stuff like that.
So getting people back on track in some way and
Yes.
in consideration of their limitation or medical history.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
You did mention weight loss. Mm-hmm. I think that's a focus for a lot of people. Yes. And considering that we're talking about metabolism today, the reason why I wanted to focus on metabolism with you is the context of like exercise or how to improve your metabolism in your perspective, what you've done with your clients. Because a lot of people, they'll be trying to lose weight and they think they're doing all the right things and they're not getting progress. What have you seen in that context?
Okay, so this can honestly be like a whole 3-hour kind of conversation. I can like really dive into it, but to keep it
show off.
But to keep it pretty like short and sweet, a lot of the times people think, and this is going to tie into metabolism, a lot of the time people think like, oh, well, like I'm going to the gym, I'm running on the treadmill for like 30 minutes or an hour, I'm like reducing my calories and I'm just super tired and I'm not losing any of the weight. And people think that that's kind of what you need to be doing, diet and exercise, because that's what we're always told, diet and exercise, which is 100% true. There's a lot of science to back up diet and exercise, but it depends on the type of exercise that you're doing and the type of diet. So to kind of bring metabolism into it, you need to be doing some sort of strengthening component because muscle is metabolically active.
Yes.
So you'll essentially the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest, which essentially means that you have a better working metabolism. So your body is just able to burn calories faster at rest.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the simple example is someone who's on a treadmill and they're like, I burned 600 calories after like running for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And that's great, but you're also probably burning muscle too, because that's kind of tapping into a lot of the exercise physiology behind it, and just like the energy systems that we use. So running on a treadmill for an hour, you're burning a lot of carbs, but then the second thing that your body is going to tap into for an energy source is your muscle. So, a lot of runners, they're very lean.
Yes.
But they're also having a good caloric intake to sustain that.
Well, I mean, runners are a little bit of a different animal because someone who runs, they run all the time. They run a lot.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's trying to lose weight where they do cardio and that's like, that was my workout. And and sometimes they'll do a lot of it. Like they'll do it like, every day.
Yeah.
And then depending on the amount that they do and the amount of muscle they have and their caloric intake, a lot of them will find like, I lost some weight initially, but I'm not losing any more. And so like you kind of, I think you read off my sheet here. I know you already knew this, but the idea is I like to measure someone's basal metabolic rate.
Yes.
So what are some ways is there multiple ways that you can test that?
Yeah. So a big way that we kind of measure metabolic rate in the kin world is really by like an equation.
Okay.
Not always the most accurate because like different factors can kind of come into play with an equation. It's like every individual is different. It's not so like cut and dry to like your weight, your age, and all
What's
of
the
that.
equation? Is this something you can tell us?
It's a long equation.
You,
I don't
use
have
an app?
it memorized. Yeah, you can like Google it. You can use an app.
So what info goes in roughly? Like their weight, their height, or
yeah, your weight, your height, your age, and then it kind of uses some other interesting decimal points.
So it'll give you what should be your metabolic rate given your height, weight, and age sort of thing. So I use the InBody, the body composition analyzer, and that calculates the BMR mostly based on muscle mass. So I really like that because we can see how it changes over time. And we definitely get a clear idea of someone who really is like a slow metabolizer, meaning they don't have a lot of muscle mass. Sometimes these are people that they already know it's like, it takes me forever to build muscle, versus some people they're like, oh, if I start training, I'll get usually women they'll be like, if I work out, like I'll look muscular, like too muscular. I'm like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe we need to tailor it in a certain way and then augment that with like certain whatever your diet might be. So muscle is, to this point in the conversation, muscle is sort of like the main indicator for me of your potential metabolism. 100%. How many calories your body's going to burn on a daily basis. Let's say the average person that we're discussing is like maybe 1,500 calories. That's their BMR. So in theory, if you don't do anything, your body's going to burn that many calories. If you eat 1,500 calories and you're metabolically active, in theory, you might like start to lose a little bit of weight if you just kind of, match your rate with your caloric intake, because inevitably you're going to be active. You're going to be doing more than just like lying there. But most people that I'm coming across that aren't successful in weight loss in the beginning, they are under consuming that metabolic threshold of 1,500 calories, for example. They don't eat enough.
And then what starts to happen is your body internally has absolutely no idea what's going on externally. So your body senses that you're not able to keep up with the basic demand that your body needs to like produce and exert energy. So your body starts to think that, okay, well, I need to preserve as much of this as I can. So it kind of goes into a little bit of a starvation almost.
Like the hibernation. When animals, they start hibernating, they see less food, but they gain more weight. And our body, we are the same, we're animals.
So that's kind of where people start to see like that plateau. And then, I've seen it so much just with like clients of mine and just, talking to people in general. That's kind of the determining factor for them, where it's like, oh, well, like I put in all this work and now it's just, I'm not getting anywhere, so I'm just going to stop.
So they lose motivation because they think all my effort is kind of being wasted. But the idea is that if you increase your caloric intake, and we're talking like healthy diet, we're not saying like, just, tack on calories at the end of the night because, you might as well. We're talking about like lean calories for the most part. If you do that and you're using your muscle, that's the message and the switch that gets turned on to say, oh, we have fuel and there's a physiological demand. Start burning, start upgrading this engine that you have. I tell people it's like having like a sports car, but like having no fuel.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, nice car, but you're not enjoying it. So that's one of the first things that we try to get people to understand. It's like, and it's important that they're aware of their caloric intake, because some people, they're like, I don't like measuring. I got a thing about that, which is fair. And if that's the case, we can like work with that. But you need to know how much you're taking in and how much your body's actually burning. Because a lot of people, they falsely think, I'm burning tons of calories. But it's like, well, you've only consumed 1,100 calories today. You had 2 meals, and you think that under eating and overtraining is going to give you the results, but actually you're working against yourself.
Complete opposite. 100%.
There's other things about metabolism that I think is useful, because this is very much like a exercise physiology perspective. There are other sometimes in English we use the same word for multiple different components. Like metabolism is such a complex issue and concept. I like looking at also the thyroid and even the adrenal gland. I try to group into that because there's what I have here, basal body temperature. Are you familiar with measuring that or suggesting that for people?
Honestly, not too much. It's
Never
not really
mind.
Something.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to add it for context because if someone is like, let's say they're exercising and they're consuming good calories and they're still frustrated, what we might do is next level down is say, like, maybe there is a thyroid malfunction, maybe something your thyroid's offline. And one, besides measuring it in blood, even something you can do at home is your basal body temperature. So waking first thing in the morning, you throw a thermometer in and you see what your temperature is at. Pretty much in theory, the higher the better. If your basal temperature at rest is really low, it means your body's metabolic rate is really, really low. Another thing that we also consider is weight, bedtime versus first morning weight. So jumping on the scale before bed, let's say you're 170 pounds, and then you wake up the next morning and you're like 164. In theory, your body burns 6 pounds of it was a pretty good sleep. I was like, go work, I sleep more. But I mean, that's obviously not the example. But some people, they might notice weight gain overnight, depending on what they ate. So if you're noticing a trend of losing 2 pounds with your morning versus your evening, and then all of a sudden you're like up a pound. You're like, well, what did I do yesterday? What was different? And sometimes you're like, you know what? I had I had a little dessert. So it's a good way for your body for your mind to connect with what your body's doing. I think in terms 100%. Of metabolism, we need to have a better tool or multiple tools to say like, oh, this is what I'm doing wrong. Because a lot of people, they're like confused. They're not sure of like, I don't know. My doctor said my hormones are fine. I go to the gym. I train. I count my calories. What's going on?
It's could definitely be a vicious cycle of like researching on your own, and then like there's so much research out there and like things that people
and opinions
and
conflicting advice. I am a non-intermittent faster.
I used to be not anymore. I don't think, for me personally, for some people it works.
That's the curious part for me, is like I want to know more specifically which individuals that works for. So far, all I've kind of discovered are people that are like morbidly obese. So like any calorie reduction, they're going to lose weight. Because if you're intermittent fasting, you're probably eating less than when you were like eating the most calories. I think there is something about burning calories like overnight and then trying to delay consumption of food. I also think that there's a big component of like people who intermittent fast, they also need to be training a lot. If you don't train that much, and a lot of people, they'll claim that they intermittent fast, but they're just, I don't want to say they're lazy to make breakfast, but they just skip breakfast. So it's not really intermittent fast. You're just like...
That's why I used to do it.
So it's not called... we should call it an intermittent fast with a big asterisk, because it's not really that. So in like, even just based on your experience and your best understanding, what are some tricks or tips that people can do to increase or improve their metabolism?
Weight training.
That's sort of the mainstream answer now.
So I mean that, like, because for me, like as a kinesiologist, we don't really we can do general nutritional counseling and all of that, but like the main bulk of like where my knowledge comes from is the actual, I guess, physical aspect of it. So yeah, like I'm always gonna say weight training and weight, like muscle strengthening, is going to improve your metabolism. But if you're asking specifically like diet,
I mean, you gave me a good answer. I want to dive into, is there certain exercises that are like supposed to improve metabolism more?
Oh, like, oh, hey, here are 5 exercises to
Don't make
speed
it a
up.
TikTok. I meant like, okay, so I guess where I'm coming from is I've always heard that like exercises that engage the bigger muscle groups, like quads, like squats, those increase like hormone production and might actually stimulate more weight loss than if you're just working on your calf muscles.
Yeah, 100%. Like, your legs are the biggest muscle group in the body, right?
Sure.
So the more you're strengthening those, and like you need to be lifting quite heavy. I feel like kind of, I guess I'm gonna go off topic a little bit. Sorry, it happens.
Still about metabolism?
Yes.
Okay.
Sort of.
That's okay.
The problem I see with a lot of people that I talk to that are interested in, you know, improving their metabolism and weight loss and all of that is when I tell them that my approach is strength training, they just completely like shy away from it.
Because you think it's just harder?
I think there's a stigma about it a little bit that like you're gonna get big and bulky and like you're gonna look like Arnold type of.
Wow.
Yeah, which like you need to be lifting a lot of weight.
It's more than just weights.
And you need to be doing a lot of things.
That was a unique situation. But I mean, there's a little pushback with like, I don't want to look mannish or too big.
You still gotta lift a lot of weight.
Yeah, so I think maybe their perception should be like, you probably educate them on like, you're not going to look, technically you'll look smaller. Your weight, and that's the other thing is sometimes your weight doesn't necessarily go down as much as you would want.
Yes.
So they'll be like, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, what if you lose 10 pounds of fat, but you gain 5 pounds of muscle?
Well, that's why the in-body analysis is such an amazing tool, because
nice
you
commercial.
Can
That's good.
But it is because you can really see, you know, like your fat, your muscle, and your like overall weight.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see, because like stepping on the scale, like the scale is gonna go up if you're building muscle.
Yeah.
But you're also gonna notice in a couple of months that like your jeans are gonna fit better.
Sure.
And
Not months, weeks.
Weeks.
It is fast.
I mean, for initially, if you're like, you know, you haven't trained or you haven't done any sort of physical activity or have been in any sort of like caloric deficit or like healthy diet, yeah, you'll probably notice results in like the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a better answer.
Yeah. Sorry.
But but it is a reality. I mean, people be like, I'm gonna do this for 2 months before I see anything. People always see change up front.
Yeah.
And when I introduce diet and giving them recommendations for exercise, I do try to introduce a diet that's going to kind of kickstart both some metabolic function, but also help with, fast tracking some weight loss, because they need to see that this is a transitional time. Like the first 6 weeks, you're going to see like the numbers on the scale are going to be like, well, it's confusing, because sometimes though, like I've had the most common thing people will say is, I swear I thought I gained weight this week.
Yeah.
And then they'll look at me like, I dropped 3 pounds. It's like, yeah, why?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know. I was so hungry. I'm like, that's good. You want like, no, I mean like, I thought I should be like, you're breaking all these habits and fixed thoughts then based on like, just like what we learn in society. And then when they start seeing the results on the in-body, and they're seeing the results at the gym, and your trainer's giving them feedback, then your clothes are different, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get like, my wiring is different.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing these little episodes, because I feel like there's so much, like we have to like remap how we understand what weight and metabolism, and because I mean there's so many catchphrases and words and that we throw around colloquially, but no one really understands what they're for. And then that's where it's all the muddied water and too many experts giving their opinions. No one knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say at this point, we're one of them, but
No, we're clarifying. We're making sense of the chaos.
Yes.
So when people were like, okay, what's wrong with my metabolism, you naturopath? I'm like, okay, well, there's different components of it.
A lot of different things.
The BMR, your basal metabolic rate. You have a good way of measuring it so that you know if you're under consuming calories. So you're not getting enough fuel. Then there's thyroid and adrenal function. So that's still your metabolism. But some people have an underactive thyroid, and so even their best efforts, your hormones are working against you. So then we have to address that component too. I mean, it can go on forever. Yes. I said we would do about 20 minutes or so.
I mean, I'm here for as long as you want. So.
All right, and then we're going to do that 3-hour podcast like she suggested. No, I mean, is there anything... in terms of, do you do much with supplementation or diet recommendations?
So I always, high protein, lower carb is usually, like kind of like that classic approach, like reduce sugar, like process. Like
it's just cleaning up the diet.
Yeah. But like, I feel like what you'll notice too, like if you're actually kind of portioning out your food and like looking at the calories that are in it, like let's say 300 calories of pasta versus 300 calories of chicken.
Sure.
You're going to be so much more full from the chicken and satisfied, and it's, better food for you because we know carbs turn into sugar, right?
Yeah.
So like even if you're not actually having physical candy or soda or whatever, it's still, your body is still metabolizing it in that way.
Yeah. So, and then the point of pasta, for example, or other starches, not a lot of people understand that sugar, when we consume it, or carbohydrate, it gets stored as fat.
Yeah.
People don't connect that. People are still like, I cut out eggs because of the cholesterol, and I cut out red meat because of the saturated fats, and I'm still gaining weight. I'm like, or gaining fat. And it's like, the fat that you consume really does not get stored as fat.
Yeah.
Your adipocytes, your fat cells, they're being fueled by carbs, excess carbs that your body can't burn or utilize. So then again, that's the whole concept. People they just don't understand basic physiology. Yeah. So then they tailor their diet in their own opinion based on like kind of what suits them and what sounds right, but then they're lacking like critical knowledge. So it's good that you encourage more protein because it's satiating, it stabilizes your hormones, so
helps build muscle.
That's the key. Yeah. So building muscle to boost metabolism.
Yeah, that's my
your punchline.
That's my punchline.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, good for you. Anything else before we let them go?
I don't think so.
Just briefly. Yeah. How often should someone exercise? Because there's people who train like every day.
Yeah.
People get up 5 a.m. to train. Do you think that's too much?
I don't. I really think it's...
Oh, it's different than I was going to say. But that's okay.
I think it really depends on the person, though.
Sure.
If you would let me finish my...
I'm so sorry. I was nervous.
That's okay.
It's the first time we're doing a podcast.
That's okay. Don't be nervous. It's fine.
Just finish your sentence.
It really depends on the person, and it depends on your goals, right? So, yeah, there's some people that they go to the gym 5 o'clock every single morning. You definitely need a day of rest, at minimum one. I mean, you should be at least
so you first said every day, and now you're saying 1 + 2 days of rest. So, okay, we're back to where I was.
Okay. You need like 2 days of rest, realistically.
So that's not every day.
2 days of rest.
5 days a week. Sounds reasonable.
Yes, reasonable. Some people can go every day.
Some people.
They can.
You go every day.
I do not go every day.
Oh, never mind.
No, I don't, unfortunately.
I should.
You don't even believe you should go every day, so.
Devil's advocate. So I think I usually tell people 3 times a week to start. That's a good.
3 is good.
If you want to do more, you got the energy, you're not hurting yourself, you got time. Time's usually the limiting factor. Time and energy.
Time, energy, and just like trying to fit it into your schedule and all of that. But also, if you're just starting out, doing like exercising vigorously 5 days a week is probably also not going to be the greatest for you either, because your body's still going to try and hold on to like, again, it doesn't know. It's going to go into like, are we like running from a bear for 5 days? Or
that's a big stress response, a stressor to put on your body. That's why someone like yourself, who can prescribe the appropriate exercise for where you are, because I think a lot of times you'll be telling the person like, you don't need to do that much. Like someone who's really gung ho on it, they're like, I did 2 hours of cardio, and they're like, no, don't do that.
Unless you're like training for a marathon or something.
No. Okay. We're still friends?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
You did good.
Thanks.
I did good too. Okay. That's it. First Metabolic Monday is done. I learned I have to work out more. Maybe not every day.
I didn't say anything about
more protein. More. She called me skinny fat before we started recording.
You weren't supposed to tell anyone.
And this is my therapy. Okay. Thanks, Amanda.